Hello, folks. Welcome back. Chris in Central Pennsylvania. It's come to my attention that during Human Rights Day, during this march about sovereignty that Fikile Malula organized over the weekend, that some absolutely idiotic and moronic things were stated. Now, I can't see who it is in the video. It's a degraded copy of a Newsroom Africa broadcast, and I can't find the video online, just the audio. And so I don't know if it's Fikile Malula, but the person's calling for a law to punish South Africans who criticize the government. Now, this is problematic in so many ways. The International Declaration of Human Rights, of which the ANC is a signatory, the South African Constitution, which gives freedom of expression. But let's talk about this. The Secretary General of the African National Congress, Fikile Mbalula, has called on South Africans to take part in a large demonstration known as the People's March, which organizers say will defend the country's sovereignty and democratic gains while also protesting against what they describe as foreign interference from the United States in South Africa's affairs. Now, this is what they said in advance of this event on Saturday. Well, these people are simply delusional. They're trying to pretend their sovereignty is under threat when the only thing in danger is the ANC's hegemony over domestic political scene. And that's why the screaming and shouting and whining about sovereignty. Nobody's threatening their sovereignty, least of all the United States. Trump has taken no action against South Africa despite endless abuse heaped upon the United States, in particular against the President of the United States, with haughty comments from Ronald Lamola, Fikile Mbalula, Gwede Mantashe, Cyril Ramaphosa, Vincent Magwenya, and a host of others. Now, naturally, the corrupt fake media carry the water for the disinformation campaign, with the French press agency Agence France-Presse falsely claiming Trump has clashed repeatedly with South Africa's government, hitting the country with high tariffs, berating President Cyril Ramaphosa in the Oval Office over discredited claims of white genocide, and boycotting the G20 summit in Johannesburg last year. Folks, there have been no clashes, only lies and subterfuge and disinformation from the African National Congress emanating from the Thule House, disguised as foreign policy for South Africa. High tariffs. Once again, 90 countries received these tariffs, including France. South Africa was far lower than their neighbor Lesotho, who got a 50% tariff. Vietnam had a 90% tariff, and many other countries were far in excess of 30%. South Africa not only was not singled out, it was hardly punished for its abuse of the trade policy that it heaps upon the United States. Now, the French press agency just packaged their lies for the low information reader. Also, President Trump in the Oval Office never claimed there was a white genocide. Quite the contrary. When Annika Larson tried to set him up, he said he wasn't convinced of that. And as far as berating Cyril Ramaphosa, that's just comical. The authors at AFP need to crack open a dictionary. Trump was polite, very patient, and anything but berating the lying South African president who denied knowledge of the Normandian protest, where the white crosses are placed after the brutal slaying farm murder of Glenn and Vita Rafferty. He knew full well about that, and he lied to President Trump. He also arrived 43 minutes tardy, and despite that, Trump was polite, friendly, and respectful to a man who showed him no respect and lied to him in front of the world. Now, supporters of the Human Rights Day march encouraged citizens to mobilize under the hashtags Defend Our Sovereignty and March for South Africa, saying the event would demonstrate unity and a commitment to protecting the country's independence and constitutional democracy. In fact, the pamphlet announcing the march stated, "Dear fellow citizens, we live in a constitutional democracy that is a product of many sacrifices, the blood, sweat, and tears of many generations of South Africans and patriots who laid down their lives so that our country can be free. South Africa is governed through a democratic and transformative constitution that guarantees its citizens fundamental freedoms, human rights, and liberties, as well as redress for the past that cannot be taken away by any government." Yet, you have an idiot ANC member advocating for exactly that. Government repression of free speech. Speech is already suppressed in South Africa with ridiculous designation of the Union flag as hate speech, made all the more comical with the promotion of racists singing to exterminate white people with Kill the Boer. And these twits think that they won freedom, that they earned the right to oppress others whom they deem the enemy, all while pretending to live in a democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, South Africa is not a democracy. Which of the residents of Graaff-Reinet chose to rename their town Robert Sobukwe Town? None. 38,000 objections lodged for a town with a population of just 41,000 people, opposed to the renaming. Yet it's being forced through. That hardly sounds democratic. And it's all done in the name of redress and restoring historical rights. There are no rights. This town wasn't founded by Africans or Khoi or San, Nguni-speaking peoples. It was founded by Europeans who became South Africans. That's hardly democratic. And besides that, a democracy? No. In a democracy, everyone gets a vote. In a representative democracy, you vote for representatives to represent your desires and needs. The United States is a representative democracy, a republic. South Africa is a faux democracy. South Africans do not vote for their town councilors. They don't vote for their mayors. They don't vote for provincial legislators. They don't vote for the premiers of the provinces. They don't vote for any member of parliament, and none of them select the president. It's a parliamentary system. And you don't even vote for the candidates. You vote for a political party. That is not a representative democracy. Instead, it is a corrupt compromise where the National Party sold South Africans down the river in a collusionary attempt with the ANC in the vain hope that somehow the Nats could still exert some degree of control over the country, and what you have is a disaster today. But let's listen in on comments from the march. Now, this is from Saturday's march, and this is what one of the people present said. I don't know if it was Mabalula, but one of them said this. Listen to what they say about South Africans, their fellow citizens, and the racist bilge coming out of the mouth of this person.
Anyone who wants to march in the country can march. We are allowed to do so. What is wrong is when white Afrikaners who become the new fur draggers go to the United States of America and go and badmouth their own country. That is very wrong. And in Parliament, we have said we must look at the possibility of introducing a law that will make it treasonous for anyone to go to another country and trample on the rights of the other people in the Constitution.
Speaking ill of your country doesn't trample on the rights. That's just the rantings of a coward who's distracting you from the truth. You want to punish South Africans for criticizing a government that impoverishes them, abuses them, and seeks to steal from them? A law? Seriously? Yes, seriously. This is South Africa in 2026. A bunch of venal, incompetent, inept, and often functionally illiterate politicians who are in their position because of patronage and loyalty to Luthuli House, not to the Constitution. This idiot, it sounds like Fikele, doesn't even understand the Constitution of South Africa. You can pass another unconstitutional law, but that doesn't make it right, legal, or moral. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the Constitution of South Africa, drafted, promulgated, enacted by a majority black government in the late 1990s under a democratic dispensation. Under Section 16 of the Bill of Rights, guarantees freedom of expression, including press freedom, academic freedom, and the right to receive or impart information. Impart information. Speak your mind. Now, it's not absolute and does not protect propaganda for, incitement, imminent violence, or advocacy of hatred based on race, ethnicity, gender, or religion. Yet it does. Black South Africans can talk and sing and hail the murder of white South Africans, and that's not hate speech. Even though it's hatred based on race, it's considered a liberation song. This gentleman wants to instill fear in South African citizens living abroad because they criticize a government that forced them to leave the country by impoverishing them based on their race. Open political debate and criticism of government guaranteed under Section 16 of the Bill of Rights of the South African Constitution. Yet this asshat wants to take it away. This is South Africa in the 21st century. It's become an embarrassment, a joke. Its moronic politicians don't even know the law and don't care about the law. They simply care about getting whitey and getting even. The irony is that this runs contrary to the will and desire of 99% of South Africans who have no desire for this racial hatred being spewed by politicians in South Africa. They simply want to get along, raise their families, and practice their faith in peace and freedom with their neighbors. But this isn't possible because of politicians. Human Rights Day, trampling on the constitutionally guaranteed rights of South African citizens in violation of South Africa's Constitution and the International Declaration of Human Rights. And of all days, they do this. They talk about censoring the speech of people who deign to criticize the corrupt, inept, venal government on Human Rights Day. What a joke. What an absolute banana republic. What say you, South Africa? Mzansi. Cheers.